Well, good evening and welcome to the third in a series of Ask the Leader events. So quite a few questions, but not as many as we'd normally expect because everybody's on holiday, it seems. So probably note to self, don't do it in August next year when people are on holiday. But it's great to be back again. This is our monthly Ask the Leader session with me, Councillor Wayne Fitzgerald, where you can put questions to me directly or officers or team members or other members of my cabinet and things. So we got a few people on the line tonight. So I'll just explain for the benefit of everybody watching. Claire George is in our communities team. Ken McCurlin is in our communications team, and Karina Bonner is in the leader's office and helps support me with the rest of the cabinet. And also on the line, and it is one of our residents, but I think she has a question. So Ken, do you want to introduce it for Sonia, who is on the line tonight?
Yeah, certainly. So as you said, our first question is from Sonia Hoff. So Sonia, if you'd like to ask your question to Councillor Fitzgerald now, please.
Yes, lovely. Thanks for having me on. I'd like to ask what the council are doing about the disruptive car meets that are happening in Alton Southgate, around the parkways and Oundle Road. I'm not asking about the Oundle Road car meets that happen at the town end of Oundle Road. I'm interested in the driving, the antisocial driving, speeding noise that comes from the car meets at the other end of Oundle Road, please.
And Sonia, whereabouts do you live? Do you live in the Alton, Sonia?
Waterville, Alton Waterville.
Oh, okay, so quite close to me because we're not too far apart. So I know exactly what you're talking about. My email box is filled with people complaining to me about this, and I do take every one of those seriously. And I have a team of people that are looking at it. But primarily what I'll start with, and I'm sure Claire, who will comment in a minute, will reaffirm what I'm saying, it's largely a police matter. But the council will do what it can do. That's why internally we've set up a cross-party working group. So that includes council officers as well as some councillors to look at what more we can do to deter what is basically antisocial behaviour. It's really irritating and annoying. And I entirely share your frustrations. But it's looking also, this group will be looking at what powers we can use as a local authority, because as I did say, primarily the stuff that is happening is a criminal stroke police matter. It's not something that we can do. But we're also looking at other areas and regions in the country where they've experienced the type of behaviour we're talking about. But we are limited in what we can do to prevent it, car cruising that is, but we're already taking action in Stapleton Road, that's in Alton Southgate, where we're designing traffic calming measures. That's in consultation with businesses, with the intention for works to begin in the next 6 months. On top of that, we are working quite closely with the police and to alert them to any car cruising events on public land when it's spotted by our CCTV team. We'll also tell them of driving or other offences if we spot them being committed. So we are doing that. So I won't say the closing section of what I was going to talk about there, but Claire, do you want to come in here and tell Sonia about some of the other things that we're doing, the actions we've been taking, and how this is all coming together?
Yes, so as Councillor Fitzgerald mentioned, we have got this cross-party working group that's just looking at all legislative options that we've got with the police. We are limited with the offences of speeding and the antisocial driving on the roads because that is very much a police matter, but we are working with them. If we come up against any information where we know that the car cruise might be taking place that might then go on to impacting the Alton Southgate areas, we will alert them to this. But also, it's like we say, around Alton Southgate in particular, we're working closely with our highways team to see whether we can implement measures with businesses to actually stop it from happening in that area. So, you know, really understand the impact that this is having on residents, but we are exploring various options to see, you know, what enforcement we could take as a local authority. But at the moment, it's it's very much limited to the police's powers.
Thanks, Claire.
See,
Sonia, do you have any
in-
comments, or do you want to ask anything else?
It must be awful for those businesses in Alton Southgate, and it is awful for the residents. Now, you don't want, as a city council, any of those businesses to leave Alton Southgate, do you?
Absolutely not.
And you know, any prospective business that arrives in Alton Southgate will see immediately the aftermaths of those left tyres and burnt out things and litter and donuts roundabouts, and they aren't going to come to Alton Southgate, are they?
I entirely agree, and you know, it frustrates me personally because I, like you, I'm just a resident. You know, I live close by, as I've said to you, and I have no problem with those car meets. You know, that come into town and they all want to show off their cars, and they, you know, it's great,
fine. Yeah,
absolutely fine. I entirely agree with you, but you know, Claire was with me, and it was only just last week when I spoke to Kate Anderson, who's Peterborough's top cop. Basically, she is the commander in Peterborough, and I spoke to Daryl Preston, the Police and Crime Commissioner. And what I find frustrating, and you will find frustrating, is what's important to you and I are not necessarily the police's priorities. And by the way, you know, counting drugs lines, child exploitation, you know, taking advantage of the modern slavery, all those things, they're all really important things, and cybercrime, but also the things that irritate you and I are also important. And it's trying to find a balance in terms of what the police prioritize. And at the moment, I personally don't think, I'm sure you'll agree with me, they haven't got that balance right.
No,
because no, and I impressed upon Daryl Preston, the Police and Crime Commissioner, and while he's not a frontline officer, his job is to hold the police to account and make a policing plan that they can work with the chief constable to deliver on those priorities. And I've made it perfectly clear that here in Peterborough, I want to see more, particularly in the city centre, more bobbies on the beat. We never see anybody. You know, never see anybody. And that also goes for, you know, the townships as well. I've lived in the Ortons most of my time here in Peterborough, over, you know, nearly 40 odd years plus. So things that are important to us, antisocial behaviour like this, you know, car crime. I could talk to you about sex and prostitution in the Burley Road area of town, which is equally as important to those people. And all we can do as the council is press the police through the Police and Crime Commissioner to deliver on what are your priorities, because they're mine as well. Because I have to live and, you know, see with my own eyes those kind of things. And Claire, do you want to come back on anything? Because you were at the same conversation where we made it clear, and you know, they are working with limited resources. I understand that, but you know, just try and get the balance a bit better. Is that a fair reflection, Claire, of that conversation?
Yeah, I think it is fair, and I think we also discussed the measures that we are looking at taking ourselves in certain parts of the city in the Ortons. And like I say, we have got this cross-party group where we're working with the police to come up with some solutions, hopefully.
Look, is there anything else, Sonia? I'm trying to reassure you, because I share the same concerns, but it's really, really annoying when you can't do anything as a councillor. You know, we have limited powers, and we can only hope to persuade and cajole people. And having good relations with the police actually is one of those key things, which is why I would continue to say to you and everybody else to, you know, continue to call the police if you're affected by the antisocial driving, and keep reporting those incidents on 101 or of course 999 if it's an emergency, because the police can only build up a picture of how important an issue is by the number of responses and the action taken by people like yourself, because otherwise they say, well, it's not a problem, you know, nobody's complaining about it. Whereas, you know, and get people like yourself to write to Shailesh Vara, who's the MP for our patch, this side of the river, and make him aware, so that when he has conversations with the chief constable, you know, coming from the MP, he knows that if the MP has raised it with the chief constable, then the MP must be getting a lot of mail or email in his post bag in order for it to become an issue. So it does actually, the weight of I don't want to call them complaints, but the weight of correspondence on the matter from people just like you and me does matter. And that does go a long way. People may think it's going nowhere, but you know, if enough people shout loud enough, somebody has to take notice. So I'll shut up, Sonia. Please ask anything else or seek any clarification.
No, I'm glad that you've got a cross party, because I think Julie Howell is part of that.
Good lady, Julie Howell, very conscientious.
Very conscientious, very, very. But even if they just gave it, just had one Saturday when they really cracked down on it.
Yeah, I know. I had the same conversation about parking, right? Yeah. Teach people a few lessons and they won't be so quick to do it again, because if you keep letting them get away with it, they will continue to do it. I entirely agree with you. I would like to see, it's not like they're not expected. You know where they're going to be. Come and catch them.
Oh yeah, they're easy to find.
I think we're agreeing. I'm not sure, as I say, what we, the council, can promise, but in the sense we can promise to try and work together, cross-party, all the councillors together, and indeed put pressure on the police to actually, put resource, that's the word they'll use, resource into, because I'll bet you it's half a dozen individuals. And I
think it's a few more than those.
No, that are causing the problem, I mean. The ones that are causing the real problem that others follow. And if you take those people out, generally, the rest will kind of, think twice about maybe breaking the law. And I'm going to be pressing for that. But again, be on the case, be on my case, but the police are the ones that are going to make the difference here, and we'll do what we can to support. But thanks for coming on and asking the question, and hopefully other people will be able to see what we've been talking about, because I would remind everybody that this is Ask the Leader with me, Councillor Wayne Fitzgerald from Peterborough City Council. And if you want to put a question to me or a member of the team, all you have to do is email asktheleader@peterborough.gov.uk, which is, I guess, what you did, Sonia. So again, thanks for your question. You're welcome to stay on, or you can go and have your supper or a glass of wine or whatever you're doing. And there are a few more questions, but Sonia, thanks for coming. If you want to disappear, great. If not, by all means, stay listening. If not, hopefully I'll see you again.
Okay, lovely. Thanks so much for all that. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay. So Ken, where are we going to next? Have we got another question, Ken?
Yes, we have. Okay, so the next question is from a lady called Charlotte. I hope I'm going to pronounce this correctly. Charlotte Gemolari. She can't be with us tonight, unfortunately. So I'll put the question to you. And her question is, so she says, there is a new university being built in Peterborough at the moment. But are there going to be any new schools built as well in the PE1 area?
By the way, just if you do want to come on, you don't have to come on camera, just as Ken has alluded to there. He's read the question out there from Charlotte. The short answer to that question, Charlotte, is no. But isn't it great that we got a new university, and every time I drive by there, it's now rising out of the ground at a pace. And somebody commented to me today, it'll be a year before we start taking students there. And I think that's, absolutely fantastic news for the city. But given the demographic information we have about schools, we've no plans to open new schools in the PE1 area of Peterborough in the next 5 years, as we've got plenty of spare places in both primary and secondary schools. There's quite an art to planning for school spaces, and there's a chap called Jonathan Lewis and his team in the council that work out the numbers and they look at how many people are being born. Perhaps there might be a lot more babies now in the last 18 months with the COVID lockdown. So he might have to adjust those numbers going forward. But certainly we plan quite carefully for years ahead, and it is based on births primarily, and of course people moving to the area. So we have a lot of spare places in quite many areas of the city, but particularly PE1. But all those proposals are regularly reviewed. The current situation in the central planning area, which covers most of the PE1 postcode, is that local primary schools there have a capacity of 6,450 places. The number on the roll in January 2021 was 5,940. Hence, there are about 500 surplus places. The number on the roll is forecast to fall in the next few years as the lower recurrent annual births feed into the primary school system and larger year groups in the older primary age groups move into secondary school. This may be balanced by the impact of new housing developments proposed in the area and perhaps COVID. Mark my words. I'll give him a little tip now. Perhaps he should look at those numbers again. The secondary school provision, though, that's has a capacity of 7,670 places. There were 6,950 on the roll in January. It gives a surplus of some 700 places, and that roll is forecast to increase at peak 7,519, 25, 26 before falling back again. So we can't just build schools because we think we should, or somebody else thinks or might suggest there's a problem. It is all based on numbers and forecasts, which are carefully gone through. So the council does have a responsibility to ensure there are sufficient school places, and they do take it very seriously. Now, it's planning to open new schools to serve major housing developments elsewhere. New primary and secondary schools will open in September 2022 on Manor Drive to serve the Paston Reserve development there. And a new primary school will open on the Hampton East site in September 22. Further new schools are expected to serve the Great Haddon development, of which Sonia, who's still on the line, will be fairly close by like me. So that's quite a big development over in Haddon there. So looking forward to see that come to fruition with the new infrastructure that goes with that, schools, doctors, shops, etc. But it's a while away. So I hope that answers your question, Charlotte, when you get to see this on playback, which will be on the council's social media channels. Ken, let's move on to our third question, which I think is from Kevin Bliss.
Yeah, that's right. It's from Kevin Bliss, as you say, and I'll read it out to you. So Kevin asks, can I ask if the car parking spaces behind the town hall in Peterborough are going to have the lines for them repainted again since the road layout has changed? And he goes on to say there's a reason for his question. He says, I often have to use these spaces due to being disabled, but I find it difficult to park within the lines as they are, on some spaces, virtually faded, or due to recent changes to the previous road layout, find numerous white lines on some spaces, and I'm not sure which lines to use or whether I will come back to a parking ticket for not parking between the lines. So Kevin is asking simply if you're able to advise on this issue, basically.
I could give her a very short answer and say yes, but just to set the scene for people who may not have been behind the town hall recently, because it's still closed, but I still have to travel into town and the town hall quite often. So when St. Peter's Arcade was closed, which is at the far end of the road behind the town hall for COVID and other restrictions, all the disabled bays that were at the far end of the road were moved to the Borges Boulevard end. That work is now going to be reversed though. So the original bays, which made it easier to access Bridge Street, are all going to be reinstated where they were originally, and the lines will be repainted. The bays that have become the disabled parking bays will be reinstated as normal 30-minute pay and display parking bays. I've already asked for that to be done. My understanding is it is in train to be done. So I think it's due to take place in the next week or so. So my notes tell me, and we'll let people know when it's complete. But I think most people that use that area, particularly those with a physical disability, will soon know, because it's an area quite well used. But yes, so the matter is in hand, and the lines will be repainted and will also be repositioned closer to the access of St. Peter's Arcade, which will benefit many that have a physical disability or can't walk very far. And I'm pleased to see that that's finally happening. Thanks, Ken. I think we've got a final question. It's great that people are on holiday. I get to enjoy my dinner a bit quicker, which is cooking as I speak. So yeah, Ken, what's the final question? Is it from Graham Russell?
Yes, that's all right. It's from Graham Russell, and again, I'll read it out to you. So Graham asks, please could you tell me why nearly 300 possible homes are still not occupied in Orton? And he goes on to say, the flats, which are 3 and 2 bedroom, would be a welcome addition and boost revenue for the centre. And he goes on to add that he works at the centre, and on occasion, he works at the centre on occasion, and no one gives him guidance as to why they are currently empty.
Well, let me first say the council isn't an oracle of everything, but in this case we do happen to know, because they're privately owned. They don't belong to the council, but the council was in negotiation to lease 51 of those flats, and if you've lived in the Ortons like I have for many years, that's at Bushfield Court, which is in the Orton Centre. And we were going to do that to use them as temporary accommodation for people in need of urgent accommodation as temporary housing. However, the flats had previously been leased by the landlord to a housing association, with that agreement ending in April 2020. However, what's happened since is the landlords, the owners of the property, have not brought the properties up to the standard that we agreed with them, and further investment is needed to do so, without which the council will not take on the properties. We have a duty of care to people we house, and if they don't meet the criteria, we're not going to bend the rules. They must meet the proper criteria: fire, health and safety, and all those essential things that we as in effect a responsible landlord, or we would be putting people in there, they have to be right. So it is frustrating that we can't use those flats, but there are a number of ongoing schemes in Peterborough to provide affordable homes, while more than 1,000 homes were built in the city between April 2019 and March. The Cabinet also 2 months ago agreed to set up a housing revenue account, which, for those that don't know, allows the council, for all intents and purposes, to build and own council houses again, which many years ago we did a stock transfer to Cross Keys Homes, and what a great decision that was. What a great landlord Cross Keys is. You know, they put money into those properties that we could never do, and you know that's why Cross Keys do so well. But anyway, we're expecting that will deliver our housing revenue account 1,200 new council homes by 2032. So that is good news. We do much better in terms of our housing provision than many areas. We built record numbers of homes in recent years, and we are investing and trying to find ways that we can accommodate as many people as we possibly can, and as quickly as we can. But it is a challenge, finding the land, getting people to build them, and then, as I say, we've not been able to own or build our own, but we have been working in partnership with many others. So we also have a 50-50 partnership with Cross Keys, which is Meacham Homes, where we've built or acquired a number of homes through that special purpose vehicle, a company basically, in order to allow us to do that. The establishment of an HRA, housing revenue account, will give us more opportunities and more options going forward in order to provide much needed accommodation of all tenures, whether they be affordable rent, market rent, shared ownership, or outright purchase. I think, we have a choice available to us that we should make it as easy as possible for people to get into a house and be safe and secure, whether they live on their own or, just a couple or as a family. I think we're doing all we can, but I would come back to, there are never enough hours in the week to get everything done. But I hope that answers your question about the particular flats in Bushfield Centre, in Norton Centre, Bushfield, that if they were brought up to spec, then we may be able to put people in them that maybe need temporary accommodation or indeed permanent accommodation. So I think we're done for tonight. And Sonia, may I thank you again? Thank you for taking part and joining in. I hope we gave you some reassurance. And if you'd like to take part in the next Ask the Leader event, all you need to do is email me at asktheleader@peterborough.gov.uk and register your interest. You don't have to come on, but it's great. We always like to talk to people, and we can basically get to the point where we can answer your questions or not. But I don't think we've so far not answered any. We tried to do our best. But in the meantime, I wish you a good night and thank you for your time and for your patience.
Good night. Thank you.